For the past year, we've been making a documentary about New Orleans music. In February, we knew we'd have to put off our interviews with musicians until after Mardi Gras. You don't want to bug a New Orleans musician during Mardi Gras. That's when they make a good part of their money. But by the time Carnival had passed, it turned out we were making a different movie. Well, that was a week. The national media suddenly realized, New Orleans, we have a problem. One of our senators tried to blame the mayor for allowing Mardi Gras, and she responded that the city checks every year with the FBI and Homeland Security, and that no advice was given to cancel it. Both the coach and the archbishop are positive. It's the Saints' off-season, but Mass is still being said in an empty St. Louis cathedral. Meanwhile, we're getting the hang of social distancing. Movement throughout the city was down by 70% this week. The virus hasn't slowed, though. This week saw over 2,000 new cases added to the state's rolls. But even that number is not realistic, as testing is still not widespread enough to count people not showing symptoms. The real indicator of what's coming is the death rate. Louisiana has lost 185 citizens to COVID-19 so far, and will lose more. Governor Edwards has ordered the New Orleans Convention Center converted to a field hospital in anticipation of the healthcare system becoming overloaded. About the only ones in town enjoying this are the rats, who are dining like royalty in the near-deserted French Quarter. It's all pretty overwhelming, and we're all on edge, in need of a little solace. Fred Rogers would often quote his mother's advice on getting through tough times. Look for the helpers. Look for the people who see a problem and get about fixing it. We're very fortunate here in that we have world-class helpers. People and groups who've been here all along, looking to the needs of the city's most vulnerable. We'd like to introduce you to a few of them. Second Harvest of Greater New Orleans and Acadiana is not your average food bank. Founded in 1982 by Archbishop Philip Hannon, it joined forces with America's Second Harvest in 1985 and grew steadily over the next 20 years. Then, in 2005, Hurricanes Katrina and Rita drove needs so high that it became the largest food bank in history, distributing 75 million pounds of food over the next 2 years. Today, Second Harvest is the central distributor for food banks and feeding centers across South Louisiana, helping over 210,000 people a year in times of food insecurity. When the COVID-19 crisis hit the state, demand at food banks tripled, and Second Harvest came within a week of empty shelves, something that almost never happens even in the biggest disasters. At first, the USDA balked at releasing stockpiles stored in Louisiana without all the usual permitting and paperwork, a decision the agency reversed on Friday evening, giving Second Harvest a desperately needed reprieve. But they still need your continued support to sustain their efforts. Keep filling those bins with non-perishable food, toiletries, and disaster supplies. Direct financial support goes even farther. With their buying power and organization, Second Harvest can turn a single dollar into 4 meals for hungry Louisianians. It's like magic, and you can help make that magic happen. The Krewe of Red Beans is a carnival club celebrating New Orleans' traditional Monday night meal. Its members parade every Lundi Gras in costumes and vehicles decorated with camellia red beans and rice. As New Orleans fell under the shadow of COVID-19, Krewe founder Devin DeWolf was impacted in a very personal way.
So my wife is an ER doctor, and 2 weeks ago when COVID really hit here in New Orleans, she would come home from work and tell me every day about work. And it was very stressful and a lot of challenges, and it's probably the most difficult thing she's faced in her career. So after a couple of days of hearing that, one day she came home and said a nurse brought cookies and shared them with everybody, and it was a morale booster for the whole team, is basically the way she put it. And I have a very weird skill set as a parade organizer, and we have a charity event with all these restaurants that we're going to participate. And as she told me that cookie story, the idea just kind of hit me. Of course, hospital workers, like any job site, love it when really delicious food arrives, and it makes everybody happy. As people kept donating, we kept buying more food and more food and more food to send to more hospital workers, because what we're doing is not just feeding the hospital workers, but we're also providing a lifeline for some of our best local restaurants, places that are like mom and pop owned, local owned. It's helping them, it's also helping the hospital workers as they're trying to save all of our lives. So it became really important to hire delivery people instead of relying on volunteers, because delivering food to a hospital is actually more complicated than you would think, and there has to be a safe protocol for that. And we basically train a person to do it safely to get the food there. And who better to hire in New Orleans right now than a musician who's lost their income right before Jazz Fest and French Quarter Fest. So, and our parade group has a lot of relationships already with musicians, so we were able to immediately tap into that community. So we've been also training people in different towns to do exactly what we're doing, to help them troubleshoot, to help explain our system to them so that they can run with it. And eventually, in a couple days, hopefully we'll have a website that will basically be a toolkit for anybody anywhere in the world to do what we're doing. So Feed the Frontline NOLA, and then on that website we will have flow charts and instructions and Excel spreadsheet templates and all kinds of other things that could help people do exactly what we're doing.
Mr. Rogers was right. There are helpers everywhere. There's the Gumbo Krewe, who've provided home cooking from ground zero in Manhattan to Louisiana's lost summers of 2005 and 2010, preparing to open their first restaurant when the pandemic hit, and now offering hot gumbo to frontline hospital workers. And the old New Orleans Distillery, shifting capacity from their delicious rums to produce hand sanitizer. And Mannie, the king of DJs, playing live sets 2 nights in a row to try and get people to stay home. These reports are our small way of trying to help, to let the world know that we're not going anywhere. 300 years of calamities haven't gotten the best of us, and we'll be damned if we'll be taken down by something as trivial as a global pandemic. This will end. We will know again the joys of feasting and festing together, made even more sweet by this challenge and how we stood together during the storm. That's the view from down here this week. Until next time, we wish you good health and good friends.
When your life's in tatters, you might try a needle and some thread. nobody talks to you, maybe it was something that you said. Be ready for the answer before you lift your head and ask what now. And you'll make it through some